Okay.
L on it or something. But she said as soon as it goes. Sorry, but here we are.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for September 24th, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order and begin with the land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The town of Grimsby stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Our first agenda item is disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest as we begin? Seeing none, we can move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Member Murphy. Seconded by Councillor Davoli. Resolved that the agenda for September 24th, 2024 Public Works Committee meeting be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the previous minutes? Moved by Member Smink. Seconded by Councillor Davoli. Resolved that the Public Works Committee minutes of July 22nd, 2024 be received. All in favor? That's carried. There are no delegations. Can I get a mover and seconder for the consent reports, please? Member Smink. Member Murphy. We've got a limited crowd tonight, so we need some participation here. Are there any questions on those? Resolved that the Public Works Committee hereby approves the following items and that various consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. DPW 2426, DPW 2427. That report DPW 2426, 2024, DWQMS risk assessment dated September 24th, 2024 be received for information. That report DPW 2427, 2024 drinking water QMS operational plan endorsement dated September 24th, 2024 be received. And that the Public Works Committee recommends Council endorse the current revisions of the drinking water quality management system operational plan dated September 2024. And that the mayor be authorized to sign the current revisions of the drinking water QMS operation plan. And that the Public Works Committee recommends Council endorse the existing drinking water QMS policy statement as per the drinking water QMS operational plan and drinking water QMS policy. It's a lot of syllables. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I don't know if I've said the letter Q that many times in that short period of time. All right. Our discussion reports. The first discussion report is a Public Works Department update. Can I get a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, please? Councillor Davoli, Member Smink. Moved by Councillor Davoli, seconded by Member Smink. Resolved that the DPW 2421 Public Works Department update. Oh, no. Who's going to be speaking to it? Brandon? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report is to provide an update on the status of the Public Works team's work plan for 2024. Just first off, as you may remember, we've made some changes to our department's organizational structure in 2024. Essentially, we're splitting the engineering group in two distinct business lines, one branch dealing with development engineering and the other branch focusing on capital projects and asset planning. So as part of these changes, we've created a new manager position to lead the development engineering group. And I'm pleased to announce that Spencer Pierce has accepted the manager of development engineering position. Over the last couple of years, Spencer has been working a bit of a dual role, supervising both the capital and development engineering teams, and we're excited for Spencer to take on the new role and the responsibilities that come with it. And also just to thank you to Marvin in terms of his support in managing a heavy plate as well. So excited that I think this, with these dual management role positions, it gives us an opportunity to provide some more focus and get some more capacity and get some more work done. So all fun stuff. So as far as our work plan goes, I provided an updated list of projects. It's included in Appendix B of the report. And as you can see from the list, we've had a lot of projects on the go this year. I'm pleased with the progress that we've seen overall as a department. It's fair to say that some of the projects maybe not as far as we wanted to be. Maybe we're a bit too ambitious, but overall, I think we've accomplished a lot this year so far, and we still have a few months to go. So maybe just to highlight some of the key milestones in terms of our downtown water main and complete streets project. We've now hired an engineering consultant, CIMA Plus, and they'll be providing the design and contract administration over the project. And we have our work with them starts. We're doing a kickoff meeting likely scheduled for next week. So that's exciting milestone for us to reach. As far as our transportation master plan, again, it's progressing well, but we are looking to schedule some workshops with Public Works Committee and Council late October, early November. Just want to obtain further input into some of our policies and update you further on the progress to date. So stay tuned for news on that end. Engineering design standards are now underway, and we're about 70% through our consolidated linear infrastructure environmental compliance approvals project, with operations and maintenance manuals nearing completion. As far as our asset management plan, we're through the third phase of it. Earlier this summer, we've completed it, and we're moving into that last phase and developing proposed levels of service for our assets, and anticipate this will be completed by mid-2025 in line with the ministry, province's requirements for asset management planning. Also, we've begun the procurement process and hiring a traffic consultant to assist with the next phase of our parking study. This phase will focus on enhancing our municipal parking supply in the downtown and Grimsby on the Lake area. So those are just some of the highlights, but I'm happy to speak to any of the projects or answer any questions if there's any questions from members of the committee.
Thank you, Brandon. Questions? Councillor DeVoley?
Chair, I guess my question is to Mr. Wortman, and as many of you are aware, I sit on the board of the Downtown Improvement Association, the Downtown Business Improvement Association, the DBIA now. And of course, the businesses down there are extremely concerned, and I know you're well aware of that. Can you just share with us your thoughts on what you think might be doable in terms of keeping communications open with them as we go through it? I know they've kicked around the idea of a committee and on, and I will say I'm not a big fan of more committees in our lives all the time, but if you'd be so kind as to share your thoughts on how we can keep them in the loop.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, good question, and that's kind of at the very top of our minds in terms of this project. We understand it is a major project involving a lot of businesses in the downtown core and the public who are visiting those businesses, so it's very important for us to stay in good conversation or communication with those business partners in the DBIA and the public in general. So as part of the request for proposal process, we provided a very, I'd say, specific requirements in terms of what we wanted to see from a consultant in terms of helping us with that communications strategy, and that was very, I guess, evident or in our review of the proposal that we received. And so I can't give you any details at this point, but just to say that is top of our list. We want to keep good partnerships down there. Communication with our business partners is going to be very critical for us. We want to go through this with people still speaking to us at the end of the day. So it is at the top of our list. And, so as we sit down and work with our consultant, we'll be providing more information to the stakeholders and determining how best to approach them. Again, I can't give too much details at this point, but stay tuned. More information's coming, I guess.
Member Spink?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of specific questions, and then I have a more general question. So in terms of specifics with the downtown water main and complete streets improvements, I know that we're just about to kick off the detailed design. Do you have an estimate based on the consultant's schedule as to when the tender for construction would be put out?
Yeah, so I think, through you, Mr. Chair, obviously we thought we'd be a little bit, like I said earlier, a little bit further along. We're, into the fall now. I think now that we've secured the contract or the consultant, I think we've cleared a bunch of hurdles that we can now go full steam ahead. So we're contemplating or looking at, I guess, a schedule with probably completion of the design mid next year. With construction, again, to be determined either late in 2025 or more likely very early in 2026. Again, we want to involve into our business partners in that conversation about when is the appropriate time to do construction. We've heard initially that please don't start in the holiday season because that would kill us. So again, we need to kind of have those conversations and work that out with our business partners to, again, to make sure that they're heard and that they have an opportunity to provide input as we move through that. So likely, again, completion of the design mid to next year, with construction late next year or early 2026. And again, one of the deadlines that we're working against is the grant funding that we received from the province and the federal government that for the water main component that we have to complete works by October 31st of 2026. So we are working kind of backwards from that date.
Okay, second detailed question has to do with the Dorchester and Nellis Road sidewalk construction, which I gather will take place next year because we're up against weather. With the new pedestrian crossover that will be in place on Nellis at Kennedy, will there be a public education component to that?
Sorry, I didn't realize I had my camera on. Through you, Mr. Chair. So in terms of the schedule, yes, I think we're like 99% done, the design. It's just a matter of a few minor changes that need to happen before we can put it out to tender. So we expect to go out to tender within the next few weeks. Obviously, we're up against I can't say the S word for snow. Oh, I did. Snow, sorry. Sorry, I messed you guys up. Poor weather could come, and so we're obviously be working with the contractor to see is this something we can accomplish realistically this year, or is it better to wait and do it in the spring and get it done in the summer for next school year. So the second question was, with respect to the pedestrian crossover, we can certainly look at education, public education. I think maybe some form of communication to the school board would be appropriate, given that it is servicing the school there. I know the region has some information on their website in terms of what the rules are for a pedestrian crossover, so maybe we can borrow that material as well. So, but no, yes, good point.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I would love to see something in the local paper, once there's up and we can get a picture. They also had a quick question about the next phase of the parking lot operational improvement strategy. So I gather that there would be a study to be completed in 2025. Are you anticipating that the implementation would take concurrently or following the downtown water main and road improvements?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So the parking lot strategy, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it is, we've just put it out to the market. So the RFP is out to the public right now. It closes towards the end of October. So the intent there is not weather dependent. We can start some work with our consultant when they're hired through later this year into next year. Idea being is we're in particular, the downtown area, there is going to be some consultation with the neighboring businesses, landowners around the parking lots as the idea here was looking at ways that we can create efficiencies, and some of those efficiencies come on our own municipal lands, and some of those efficiencies come in how we can work with our neighboring landowners. So there will be a lot of time, I think, spent in working that out, or working through those discussions with those landowners. So in terms of implementation, actually getting shovels in the ground, I think those decisions still need to be made. The intent of this phase of the project is to develop those partnerships, develop those designs, start pulling together cost estimates, and start figuring out, okay, how do we fund this? What are the costs? How do we phase this in? What makes most sense? That kind of thing. And then we would come back to council. Obviously, there should be some budget concerns with that, or budget decisions to be made. So likely see that hopefully at the end of 2025, which would lead us into 2026 and beyond in terms of an implementation strategy.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Then I have a general question, and it was a concern that certainly we've been discussing over the last couple of updates, because there's been a very ambitious list of projects and a hardworking staff that is small but mighty. I still have this concern. We've been pushing a lot of things into 2025, and it's going to be as challenging, if not more challenging, a year. I understand with your reorganization that I see efficiencies there. Is there anything else in terms of the procedures that we put on you, or anything that we can streamline that, otherwise we'll be able to bring things through? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess in terms of needs, I think I've said this to council at our previous, when we were into the budget process. I think with the changes that council approved into 2024, with the changes in terms of our organizational structure on the engineering side of things, I think that does bring some capacity. Mind you, we are down some vacancies right now. One of those is created with some, a couple of those are made with some internal movements. But, I'm thinking, once we get those new recruits or people in the chairs, it should help keep things moving forward. I think we're always conscious about where our pain points are. Are we taking on too much? Am I pushing people too hard? I have a good team that pushes back if I am. But I feel, again, strongly that, and I'm learning in my director role too over the last little bit, is trying to be too ambitious and maybe being more realistic about what we can accomplish on a yearly basis. So there's that balance of you don't want to just overpromise and underdeliver, or did I say that wrong? But but at the same time, we do want to be. We do want ambitious. We're excited about the community. There's a lot of things that we feel that need to get done. So. So I don't, hopefully I answer that. I mean, I guess in terms of resources right now, I'm feeling that we're good, but again, we're kind of keep an eye on things that way. And as the community continues to grow and evolve, and we'll certainly be back to council if we feel that there's more support needed on that end. Just in terms of, I guess, our work plan, I know that there, maybe some learning experiences for me is, we put a work plan together and say, okay, here's what we're doing this year. And things come up throughout the year whether it's through, public inquiries or motions from council that do add to that work. And I think we have to be cognizant of that that has to fit in with the work plan. And if we are taking on we're adding more work to the pile, then some of the work gets protracted or takes a longer time to get done. So that was a bit of a diatribe there. So thank you for listening to me.
Any other questions? I've got a couple. So the computerized maintenance management system timeline, Phase 3, which is the customer service portion of it, doesn't start until 2025. It says fall 2024 and then 2025. So what is do we have a clear understanding of the timeline of that? And also, what is that going to look like when it's done? From a customer service perspective, from a council perspective, and from a staff perspective? How does that all come together to make the customer service model better?
So, to you, Mr. Chair, I guess firstly, so when we initially, started down this road of a project, we had this conversation earlier today, we wanted to get a software that did everything. And I think as we've evolved through this project, we've understood, this is maybe more suited with this software over here, and how do they tie together? So in terms of the customer relation side of things, we have an existing piece of software called Access E11, I believe it's called. So we've been looking at how we can better leverage that software to provide a more front-facing customer service relations module. So our IT team has been working just recently, so I know it says fall 2024. We're already kind of in the process of working on that. So our IT team has been working with our customer service team through our clerk's department administration and others to developing on what that's going to look like. So that may involve improvements to our website and making sure that the people can access the information more clearly. So I don't have a full scope of, here's all the things it's going to do and here's what it's exactly going to look like. But it's fair to say that we understand that is a major component of this project, and it's very important to us to make improvements on that end. So I hope, I think as we work through this, I think we can probably provide more information about, here's what this program can do, and here's what the front face will look like. Here's what the public will have the ability to accomplish. So hopefully that helps.
That helps a bit. This idea, the project, predates you in this job. I was promised it in 2014, I think. So, we were talking about having an app, a Grimsby app back then, where people could, when they're walking down the street, open it up, take a photo of it, and upload it. The one suggestion that I would make, because even the current system, the suggestion I would make is that people are given some sort of indication that it's being received. And I don't mean a staff member, even if it's an automatic reply. Like if you're doing a Google form or a Microsoft form, at the end of that form, you can, as the person who creates it, send a receipt, send a response. These are your responses to the person who sent it. It doesn't require anything from staff perspective. It's probably just pushing a button on the other end. But it makes people feel better about the fact that somebody got that. Because our current system right now, it feels like it's just going into away. Staff might be diligently on the other end, working hard to get it done, and that's why you don't need to hear back, because it's fixed. But the feeling that people get is one that it's just going away. It's just disappearing. And so whatever we can do to make people feel better about it also keeps people from calling, right? Anything that allows people to do things themselves and keeps customers happy while preventing staff from having to use their time on answering phones, because that's not a good use of professional time unless it's something that specifically needs staff to be involved in. So something like that would be a really good addition to the program. The other thing that I was going to say was regarding our downtown project. On my way back from AMO this year, I stopped in Port Hope, which is currently redoing their downtown in a very similar way to what we, completely closed down, water mains being put in. Similar, you know, their downtown's a little bit bigger than ours, but completely shut down, roads ripped up. So maybe reaching out and learning from what they did. I stopped because they have a Carnegie Library there, and I'm a heritage nerd, and there's only like a dozen of those left. So ours is better. And it's like theirs is like ours was before when we had the old edition, because their edition is still part of the library. But anyway, it's still neat to see them because they all look exactly the same. I swear that they just sent out one plan, and they built that library all over North America. But it's neat. But I think there's a lot to learn from that downtown Port Hope project. Even if you reach out to the engineering team that was involved in it, you know, what did you learn? I honestly, when I saw it, I thought, I've got to let staff know, because this is a really good, there are a lot of similarities. So I would recommend you do that.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for that suggestion. We'll certainly do that. Just to let you know, early on in this process, when we started the first of the planning exercise, was at Oakville. We reached out to their team who did their downtown, and very similarly, tell us what you learned, tell us what the good things were, tell us what the bad things were, what needs to be improved, kind of thing. And we got some good tips that have kind of helped us in getting to where we are. But no, certainly it makes sense for us to reach out and not reinvent the wheel and learn from other people's, pain points to help make it easier for us. I think that's a great point. So certainly look into that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on that report? Seeing none, I have a resolution moved by Councillor DeVoley, seconded by Member Smink. Resolved that report DPW 2421 Public Works Department Update Fall 2024 dated September 24th, 2024 be received for information. All in favor? That's carried. Next report is on Grimsby Beach tourism and parking considerations. Can I have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, please? Councillor DeVoley. Member Spink. Who's doing that one? Brandon?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So this report is provided to address a resolution that came from council, which asked staff to review and report back on possible restrictions to heavy vehicles in the Grimsby Beach neighborhood. I believe the complaint came around with respect to coach buses that were entering the area and having difficulty maneuvering. So staff did review the motion and acknowledge that there are existing concerns that with traffic and parking concerns related to the Grimsby Beach neighborhood. Just to speak to, we did provide some improvements in the last couple years to one-way directional signage, some pavement markings, and some additional parking restrictions. And we have some additional ideas as to some potential opportunities to, further address and mitigate the issues with parking and the tourism access in terms of buses and things like that. Things we're looking at as, potentially providing designated loading and parking areas for those larger vehicles. So, hey bus, here's where we want you to park and unload and walk this way, kind of thing. Also new wayfinding signage to allow for better navigation. So again, directing them where we want them to go rather than where we don't want them to go. So positive reinforcement. Some additional parking restrictions to allow better traffic flow, and also we want to look at sidewalk connections and other active transportation improvements just to improve the pedestrian accessibility to the beach and in the general area. So as you know, we've been working on our transportation master plan, or the TMP project. It's currently underway, and the scope of the TMP includes our consultant reviewing a number of areas of interest, and one of those areas specifically, which you've talked to them about, is the Grimsby Beach area. So, as the TMP will look at these issues in a more comprehensive manner, we're asking the committee and council to allow staff to continue to work through our TMP process and report back to the committee and council at a further date with recommendations specifically dealing with these matters. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Questions for Mr. Wortman? Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Chair. Totally, I do understand that, you know, the TMP is going to be looking at all of this. But as I look at the timeline for all of that finishing, I fear that spring of 2025 will be upon us, and those tourist buses will be there before we can even start acting on any of the recommendations that might come from the TMP. Is there any way to fast forward any components of it that have to do with it so that, I'll say by spring of 2025, before these tourists and tourist buses start taking over the Grimsby Beaches area with the good weather, that we could actually start acting on some of these things even sooner rather than waiting till the whole thing is tied up with a nice ribbon around it?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a very fair comment and fair question, and I think that's kind of where we're working towards too, is where is the low-hanging fruit, or where is the areas that we can provide some quick wins or immediate response for outstanding issues. So not only in that area, but other areas as well. So yes, I think for sure that's a good point, is we don't necessarily have to wait. We're already kind of in conversations with the team about, okay, what does our budget look like for next year? We're partially through this project, this study. How are we starting to develop our programs and our capital budgets to kind of support the outcomes that inevitably will come out of that? So I think that's a fair point, and we will certainly keep this at the top of the list and try to keep it moving and done in a timely manner. Yes, because I think that was, one of the other conversations we had as a team is, do we implement something now as we're going into the winter months and we're off season? So expect that the bus traffic's going to cut down and won't be too much of an issue in the winter. But yes, certainly can we work towards having some changes in place, in the spring? I think that's definitely doable.
Further questions? Suggestion, I think that it's important that we do stick to the process, but I get the wanting to move some things up. I have found that if you put something in Google Maps, because the problem is when people are following their GPS, they will go down roads that they normally shouldn't go down. So I live near Wolverton Road. Transport trucks will use, and dump trucks will use Wolverton Road when they're using Waze and they haven't driven down that road for the first time. So local trucks do not use Wolverton Road. The local businesses, you don't have to worry about it. Where you have to worry about it is somebody coming off the QEW who's taking the route that their GPS tells them to take. So I think similarly in Grimsby Beach, if we were to drop a pin at Grand Avenue School and put in Grimsby Beach parking on Google Maps, honestly, I think that would solve half of the problem. You just put it in and say Grimsby Beach public parking at the town parking lot beside the beach hall, and there's plenty of parking. The school's empty on weekends. I know that we can't promote people using the school parking lot, but we have a parking lot there as well. And it would encourage people to go, because people are just going to click and take it. And so that's just a recommendation. I could do that myself. You know what? I'll go home tonight and I'll put it on there. Anybody can do it. All it takes is somebody to approve it, right? So it's important to keep in mind that vehicles like water take the path of least resistance. Like they take whatever path they feel is, so a bus driver is just going to click on that GPS and go down that route without realizing that road's too small for them. There was an interesting article, I don't know if anybody saw it, just a couple of days ago on Curiosity on a website that talks about tourism, and they recommended coming to Grimsby Beach to see the cottages. They quoted directly from the town website, which I'm glad the town website says it. I'm going to tell you exactly what it says. It says, if you're planning on visiting the area, the town does note that Grimsby Beach is first and foremost a residential neighborhood. So right in the article, they quoted from the town website that said, remember, people live here. And I think that that's a good thing to remind people, that when you're taking a picture of a house, obviously, people don't mind because they've done a beautiful job maintaining their homes, and they take pride in it. But at the same time, it is somebody's house. So know the boundaries of where the front yard is, and know what's public and what's private. And that's, if people used common sense, then we wouldn't have to have this discussion at all. As we've learned over the years, common sense, unfortunately, is not that common. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Wortman? Seeing none, we have a motion moved by Councillor DeVoli, seconded by Member Smink. Resolved that report DPW 2422 Grimsby Beach Tourism and Parking Considerations dated September 24th, 2024 be received, and that the Public Works Committee recommends council approve the staff direction to continue with the work currently underway through the Transportation Master Plan and report back to the Public Works Committee with further recommendations on this matter in the future, considering all the other things that were discussed as well. All in favor? That's carried. The last report is the 2024 Drinking Water Quality Management Review. Can I have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor for discussion? Member Smink and Councillor DeVoli. Welcome, Councillor Costangi. I was hoping to have it done before you got here. Sorry. I got to learn to be quiet. Or who's going to be? Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you through you, Chair. As the report mentions, the management review is an opportunity for Public Works staff to review, assess, and discuss the various elements and inputs to the DWQMS. At a very high level, staff review regulatory compliance, sampling and monitoring activities, efficacy and efficiency of different programs and processes, operational performance, state of infrastructure, as well as training and human resource requirements. Some of the examples that we discussed during the meeting are the operational plan and the associated documents, the risk assessment, infrastructure review, internal, external, and regulatory audits, consumer feedback, and then again, resourcing. While we discussed many different topics during the annual review, the most impactful was the identification of an opportunity for improvement on the human resourcing side of things. Specifically, it was identified that we have 2 vacancies within the environmental services team, which have been challenging to fill. Further to this, the sectors of water and wastewater are experiencing challenging times for workforce shortages. It should also be noted that over the next 5 to 6 years, many of the current environmental services staff will be eligible for retirement. As such, the Public Works Department and ultimately town must consider an approach to succession planning. To address these challenges of workforce shortages, the suggested approach is to fill these vacancies and potentially increase the staffing complement with water operators rather than fully licensed operators. It should be noted that it takes an estimated 5 to 7 years to bring a junior water operator to fully licensed and competent within the position. While the approach may increase the size of the environmental services staff complement, it would provide opportunities for training and development to operators who may be new to the industry, while also ensuring the appropriate number of staff are available to cover over the long term. That being said, overall, while the opportunities for improvement exist, staff do have confidence that the water system and the QMS are currently in a good condition and are operating efficiently. Staff are here and available to answer any questions or hear any comments. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ben. Questions for Ben? The only question that I had was related to, you mentioned the challenges of filling those positions. So we do have the ability, this is a question, do we have the ability to hire somebody who has no knowledge in this field, train them internally? That seems to be what you're talking about in the lower level. My concern is always, like any of these jobs, that you're training somebody for somebody else, right? I guess that's a fear in any position, but one that requires this level of training. That the fear is always they're going to get poached by a larger municipality. So, is there anything that we can do to maintain that, the that continuity of staffing. You mentioned one thing, but is it a salary challenge? Is it or is it just simply the people just aren't out there or don't know that this job exists? Is there anything else you can? Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll answer. So through you, Chair, the challenges that we find with these positions are effectively there aren't a lot of operators out there currently. And unfortunately, every municipality in Ontario and the region effectively needs these type of positions. So with one of our vacancies, just for an example, our posting went out, and within 2 days of our posting, so was Hamilton, so was Guelph, so was Welland, so was Port Colborne, and that's just the ones in our immediate vicinity. So unfortunately, water operators are a very sought-after commodity right now. And most specifically, experienced water operators are very sought after. To your point about potentially pay and what we are paying for operators here, I think we're quite competitive with the market. Maybe we can't compete with, say, a Hamilton or Niagara region, but we're not very far off. But the opportunity that we do offer in the town being smaller, I think, is kind of a different opportunity. So it is unfortunately great for growth and training for staff because they are exposed to a lot of things. Some operators in the long run prefer that, and that's why we've been able to hang on to some of those operators, and others look to move on to greener pastures on other places. That's always going to be a challenge, like you mentioned, for any position in a small town, but we just have to try and plan accordingly. And as Ben had mentioned in the report, looking at operator and training positions and trying to train them within. Part of the reason that we focus on that is trying to kind of let them have a bit of ownership of our system here. So they're not coming from Hamilton or from a different system where they've been trained. They've actually learned here. This is a part of their system. I mean, if we can find someone local and this is their community, that might even be better. But that's just some of the ways we're trying to really build this resource because we do see it as a potential risk down the road. So.
If I can just add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just to add to, with the operator and training route, it also gives us the opportunity to maybe promote internally. Maybe it's a lateral move from, one of the other divisions within the town. I think we found some good success with that approach where we are kind of poaching from other departments, but it is given an opportunity for someone to advance into maybe a more specialized in terms of trained and educated in terms of the certification for water licensing and wastewater licensing. So, and it's kind of a shift in gears or a shifted approach of, is this a better way for us to attract and hang on to our talent kind of thing. So, that was kind of in our minds. So we were trying to make that, come up with this kind of plan, I guess, if you want to call it.
Thanks. And drinking water obviously is the top priority because it's regulated. And so if you're moving from one department or one area to another within the town, having to backfill another position is less important than drinking water. I mean, drinking water is one of those ones that it's literally a matter of life and death. So, not that I'm worried about it, but it's one of the most important things we do as a municipality. So
yeah, just to add to that, very specialized in terms of, I think I don't know if Ben mentioned it, but we're seeing that it takes probably 5 to 7 years to train someone from green to fully qualified, fully competent. So that's again part of the idea is if we can get I want to say young, but young recruits in and train them. And if we're adding to our complement by bringing in less qualified initial people, in the long run, the people who are able to retire 5 or 7 years from now have 5-7 years to train these people to be able to take over for them when they are ready to kind of hit the road. So I should have made a water analogy, but I couldn't find one.
Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the trends that we're seeing in the workforce through the pandemic, and certainly, now that we're out of that time period, is that there are a lot of folks who are in that baby boom generation who, retired during the pandemic, shortly after the pandemic, yours truly. And, employers are looking at this as the talent walks out the door, right? All that institutional history walking out the door. But people don't necessarily leave and, put their brains out to pasture, right? Like they're still living much longer than they used to, still very active and healthy. And so one of the trends we've started to see is that those folks who are retiring just want some flexibility. They don't want to be held down to Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. They really would like to still give and participate, keep the brain active, be socially, be social with their coworkers and friends and so on, but just don't necessarily want to be held down to that strict working regime that they used to be. And so we see a lot of businesses now making use of those retired people. And I know we did even in our industry where they would come back and work for us during our busy time, or they would work part-time, and we had to be flexible with them about it. And so I'm only, giving examples like this that perhaps those people who are retiring might be open to an alternative type working arrangement, while they act as the mentors to the new ones. So I don't know what the timing is in terms of when these folks are considering retiring, and whether that's well off in the future, or whether it's, going to be hitting us within the next 2 years and we might not have anybody trained by then. But there is an opportunity kind of to straddle both sides, I guess, is what I'm saying, that we might want to think about.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. A very good point, and I think we've something for us to consider. I think we found some success in that. Similarly, in the engineering department division, we've brought one particular person over from who was retired from another municipality to assist while we had some capacity issues, and was really effective in working a couple days a week. I guess I'll stop there. But yeah, it was successful.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, resolve that report DPW 2425, 2324 drinking water QMS management review dated September 24th, 2024 be received for information. That's moved by Member Smink, seconded by Councillor Davoli. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There is a staff memo on the agenda providing an update on the green pilot project. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive it? Councillor Davoli, Member Smink. Resolved that the staff memorandum on the Green Road pilot project be received. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you. Other business, I think. Oh, you had a question? Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Not about the report per se, but just about backfilling some information for me about what exactly is St. Catharines thinking of as their Green Road pilot. Like, what does that mean to them and conceivably to us?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, good question. Not 100% sure, but I think the kind of the long and short of it is they're looking at alternatives to basically using petrochemicals within the asphalt. So, hey, what can we do to eliminate, the petrochemicals in the asphalt? Everybody's doing road resurfacing. There's tons and tons of asphalt that go down every year. Hey, is there another, like bioresins is something that they're looking at, and I don't know what that means, but so they're looking at alternatives to, I guess, to the standard way of making asphalt. And the idea is, in the long run, that's better for the climate, better for everything. So we're just waiting to hear back from their council report that their staff takes to council, and then we'll try to see if that's something that we can incorporate into Grimsby. Yeah.
Is there, are they considering the possibility that, so when they change the materials that they're using to put on our roads, is there the consideration in all of this as about how we make our roads more, I'll call it permeable? Because we're kind of expecting with climate change that we're going to get more rain, more freeze-thaw cycles, et cetera, right? And so I hear you about using less petroleum in those products, but also at the same time, wonder about how we make the surfaces that we're driving on, that we're parking on, and so on, I guess, more porous so that we can absorb the rainfall that comes into the ground underneath. Do you think that's part of it, or?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I think that will be part of it, and I know there's been pilots in the past looking at permeable pavements. My, I guess, limited experience is it hasn't been overly successful in Canada because of winter maintenance. But the other thing which I didn't touch on is even if you can make the asphalt last longer, is good. So instead of resurfacing every, let's say, 10, 15 years, if you can even push it to, say, 20, 25 years, that's a win. So that's something that they'll be looking at as well. So, yeah.
Sorry, if I can just add to, as part of our Wolverton project, do you want to speak to the fiber materials that we're using?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So talking about making asphalt last longer. So if you've driven down Wolverton, you've probably seen some construction signs going up. So in the next few days, we'll be closing Wolverton to do the culvert replacement, and then in the next couple of weeks, the asphalt resurfacing. So we're going to be doing a pilot on Wolverton. Essentially, half of the road we're going to be paving as normal, as we've done for years and years, and the other half using a fiber-infused asphalt. And the literature and other larger municipalities, regions that are using it, tell us that it will last possibly in the order of 25% longer. So if we can get another even 5 years of the road that we normally wouldn't get, I think that's a win at a small percentage in increased cost. So, so we're anxious to give that a try, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it goes well.
Just out of curiosity, will you share with us which side of the road has the fiber in it and which doesn't? We'll all be curious now.
Yes, Mr. Chair. No, we have to keep that a secret so that we don't wreck the pilot.
I'm happy to see the construction happening on Wolverton. The culvert replacement's important because currently, every time there's a storm, the debris washes across Main Street. So there's gravel, and so I'm hoping that that's going to fix that problem. It's been an ongoing problem since the Wolverton construction from, I want to say 15 years ago. Sorry, go ahead.
So just to clarify, the work that we're doing this year is the escarpment, what do you call it? Beyond the escarpment, south of the escarpment section. That said, we do have on our horizon, on our radar, I guess if you want to call it, looking at some improvements to the Wolverton escarpment area. The pavement is getting to the point where it's the end of life, so we need to look at that, and we will also be looking at some potential storm water improvements to help reduce some of those washouts. So yes, we are aware of that, and that's on our radar as well.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding that? Other business? Is there any other business pertaining to the committee? Member Spink?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I had two items. The first is with regards to the traffic impacts of the Century Condo construction, which has begun and taken one lane of Main Street, just east of Elm. My question to staff was just, are there any changes to traffic signal timing, detour routes shown, anything that, I'm sure you're getting comments from everybody. Just curious what has been observed and what might happen.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I guess just to speak to the changes, so it was mentioned at council last night in the regional chairs update, but the intersection of Elm, Main Street East, I think it's still Main Street East on the other side, so Elm and Main Street East near the TD Bank. So essentially we've closed the westbound lane, the westbound through lane, and what was formerly the left turn lane to turn left onto Elm has now been converted to a through and a left turn lane. And what the region has done through in consultation with the developer and input from the town in terms of our staff is we've created a three-phase system where each section or each leg of the intersection operates independent of the other. So green light on the east leg, a green light on the west leg, and then a green light on the north leg or south leg, I guess I should say. So so far, I mean, the things have been. We had a bit of a hiccup, I think, on one day or in the last couple of weeks, but so far, I mean, we're keeping an eye on it. But so far, things have seemed to be flowing through there properly. So every opportunity we have, we'll drive through there and just see how things are going. So far, so good. We have had some issues with pedestrians, maybe not crossing at the right locations or going where they shouldn't. So again, additional education in terms of signage and fencing, just to make sure that we're keeping them safe as well. So is that, did I answer all your questions?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I will have a look at the video from last night's council meeting. I wasn't there, of course. The other question that I had in terms of other business was just a general question, because I know that there has been a review in terms of the governance structure of our standing and advisory committees. I just wanted to ask for any clarification. Is there any changes in terms of our terms of reference or any of the procedures that we have been doing? The one thing that I saw that I thought, well, I haven't been doing that, which is provide 7 days notice of a motion. Sometimes we just talk about stuff and make a motion, so just wondered about that.
Yeah, it's notice for a notice of motion, which is, it's more for council, because notices of motion at council, anything that we do here still has to go through the process of staff bringing it back here before it goes to council. It's more to prevent councillors from bringing things up on the night of and creating new business on the night of council. So that, I think that it's more just a general direction for councillors. I think it's less strict for committee members. The procedure, Katie can speak to it too. The procedure does allow for us to make it to vote to do it anyway with a majority. But if you wanted to add anything, Katie.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So I guess with the notices of motion, members, it's happened at other standing committees too, community services, for example, but notices of motion have been brought forward. That extra 7 days just gives staff more of that heads up, just in case there are resource impacts they have to think about when it comes to responses. With standing committees too, they are due at noon, 7 days before the committee meeting. And I guess the other change that's happened is, instead of, like at council, it's still the same, 2 rounds on any item. You can speak for 5 minutes and then 3 minutes. With standing committees and advisory committees now, the speaking limitations, you can speak as much as you want, but you've got 10 minutes now total on any item. So there's that. But with regards to terms of references, there have been no changes to Public Works Committee's terms of reference.
If I can ask a question. So to clarify for Member Smink, if it's a matter that arises from an agenda item, it's different, right? It does not require, so if we're talking about it and a motion comes out of that discussion, that's different from something brand new that wasn't on the agenda. So a notice of motion is generally, can we explore this topic that isn't part of what you're talking about already? And it's different than asking a question in new business like we're doing now, in that this is just questions, and getting some feedback. But a notice of motion is generally trying to give direction to the committee or to staff and then to council about how it should, so it's a little bit more formal. Did you want to add? Sorry.
Yeah, the one further question in terms of clarification of how things will be going forward. Has there been a change in terms of what comes through Public Works and what might go straight to council?
Yeah, so that's at the discretion of the clerk. They work with the directors, whether it's for all committees, they work with the directors and the chair and everything to determine what goes on the agenda. I can say items with, I believe it's over $100,000 of budgetary impact would go to council for that sort of approval. So situations like that, there's some determination there. But it's the staff in consultation with the chair that determines those agenda placements.
And historically, if things that are time sensitive or time sensitive and financial were always been the two big ones that might cause us to skip over the committee. But I could tell you, and Brandon will tell you how much I bug him about it. I try to get as much to come through the committee as possible because I think it's important. Go ahead, Brandon.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that conversation. I think we've increased the date that we get our agenda out by 1 day, so we're trying to get that out to committees and council early. And also the other changes, and I think it's been circulated to members, but our meetings next year will be moving from Monday to Wednesday evenings.
Thank you. Going back to the discussion about Main Street East, just briefly, the northbound traffic on Elm that comes to a T in front of the bank and has to come to a full stop. When there's a left turn, an advanced left turn going westbound, a right turn signal would not be a bad idea there because there's no pedestrian traffic. It would increase the flow of traffic. I believe. I'm not a traffic engineer, but something for our traffic engineers to consider because anything that we could do to keep traffic moving there is good. And that's one where there tends to be, it tends to back up because of the turn and the stop. So if we can have a short period of time where there's a flow of traffic without a stop, where people don't have to worry about pedestrians crossing there because there's a right turn signal, then I think that would be an improvement. Go ahead.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, certainly we can take that away. I'm not sure, I can't picture the signal heads have the dedicated right turn. If not, they would have to be modified, but certainly something that we can take away with the region and see if they can add that to the phasing to, again, keep the traffic flowing through there.
I think about it every time I'm backed up past the GBF waiting to make a right turn on that street there. It's usually when there's a market, and I love the market, but it does cause people to go that way, and it does back up traffic, right? So, it gives me plenty of time to think about these types of things. Any other new business for the committee? Seeing none, the next Public Works Committee meeting is scheduled October 28th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Thanks, everybody, and the meeting's adjourned. Have a great night.